Welcome to the 10th Year Podcast, a podcast about health, parenting, and relationships with your hosts, Christof and Crystal. All right, welcome back to the 10th Year Podcast. I'm Christof.
And I'm Crystal.
And this is episode 7. We're cruising right along.
Wow, 7 already. It's been 7 weeks?
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I think it's only been 6 because we did 2 in 1 week.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, but... we're moving along. Things are going great. This episode is going to be a 2-part episode. If you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, you will already know what the topic is about. If you don't, let us enlighten you. It is going to be about, really, for lack of a better word, I'll use PTSD, is going to be what the topic is for this episode and the next episode. We're going to break it down into 2 parts because, God, there is a lot to talk about. And we're probably still not even going to get to all of it. But, yes, that's what it's going to be about. Before we get into that, be sure that if you want to support the podcast, go over to thebeardedetailer.com/the10thyearpodcast and or our Facebook page and check out the links that you can help support the podcast, whether that be the Amazon affiliate link, strikeforceenergy.com using the promo code BEARD20, or using the promo code TTY10 on the beardedetailer.com in the swag store for 10% off your order. You know, those are the 3 ways that you can support. Another way you can support doesn't cost you any money. It's just like our posts, tell people about it, subscribe, review, rate and review. We said on the last podcast that we would read any rating. As long as it was a 5-star review, we would read those reviews. So go for it. Go for it. Actually, let me look up right now to see if anyone... I haven't checked to see if anyone's done it. This will only take a second. Any reviews? 0. Okay, so that covers that. Go on, rate and review, and write something, and we will read it on the podcast. So, how are you? You just got home from work.
I am happy that it is Friday.
That's right. It is Friday.
But other than that, I feel pretty awesome.
Good. That's good.
But I'd like another cup of coffee.
I would too. I'm going to have to make you another cup, even though our shipment was supposed to come today, and for whatever reason, it's not here. So I'm assuming that it didn't make it in time at the post office to be loaded onto the truck, so we should have it tomorrow. But that's okay. I'll still make you another cup. So let's dive into this. Now, basic definition, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is what it stands for. I feel, along with a lot of other people, that it is a term that's thrown around very easily, too much maybe, and I have been diagnosed with PTSD. It is a real thing. PTSD is a real thing. I'm not a person that's going to say it doesn't exist. I feel that but again, I feel it's used too often to cover too broad of an issue that is very specific. And we listened to a podcast that had Tyler Gray, who has, if anyone's watching the SEAL show on CBS, he is in that. He was also on the History Channel's, or was it Discovery's show, The Selection? It was either History or Discovery. I don't remember which one it was. But he was on that as well, too. And he actually described that he feels that PTSD is not what people who were not injured or actually didn't suffer a traumatic event. What it actually should be is what he calls LTSD, which is lack of trauma. And I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement, and the way that he goes on to describe it, and I'll tell you more information about that. But the way we're going to split this up, this podcast up, this episode. Part 1 is today we're going to talk about the negative, essentially how it happened, the nitty, shitty, gritty that can happen. This episode's going to get a little, it'll get dark. It's going to get dark. I'm just telling you that right now. Some of you who may know me maybe you don't. And
you never truly know anybody.
No, you're going to learn a lot today. Luckily, this is all of this stuff is stuff I don't mind talking about anymore. There was a point where I didn't want to, and now I have no problem talking about it to anybody, really, that has 2 ears, or even one that works. And honestly, because it's such a big part of my life and ours as a family, actually, it's pretty big. So, and then the second part, which will be next week, we're going to make you wait a week for the continuation, will be about all the good. Mm-hmm. The good, how we, and I say we, managed to turn everything around. And I mean, I'm by no means cured, a spitting example of anything that should be or can be, but where we were versus where we are is a complete 180, and we'll talk about that on the second part. So, all right.
So, but you got your PTSD from
Afghanistan,
but you can also get it even if you're in a horrible car accident.
Well, that's the thing. Really, PTSD is supposed to be a diagnosis of somebody who has lived through a traumatic event, and hence the name. It's after the trauma. Mm-hmm. And
but it doesn't always come right away.
It may never. And that's a lot of what I have now learned through this, and what we have learned, and everything, is that the human brain is so complex. You can have 2 people experience the exact same traumatic event, and one person will walk away with one take on it, and their brain will do one thing, and the other person will walk away and have a completely different reaction, a completely different experience, and a completely different story to tell. So that's why you'll look at some of the and again, for me, this is all going to be military related. I was never, for me, I've been in a car accident before, and I don't have PTSD from the car accident. Mm-hmm. Although I was a little uneasy, riding with somebody after having my car accident, but I got over that very quickly. So for sake of conversation, just remember I'm speaking from the military sense of this, but that's why you'll hear people who were deployed together in a combat zone, who they'll have some people like, oh no, I'm fine. I don't have nightmares. I don't have any of these issues. And you have some people, same platoon, same company, same battalion, same mission even, who will have issues. And I don't feel it's right to judge any of these people either way. You can tell when someone's lying. At least I think I can. But it doesn't make me an expert on people. But again, we'll tell the story. So I was deployed to Afghanistan. I left for training in December of 2007. We went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina to train. We came back in time for Christmas. We were allowed to have a few days for Christmas with our families, which is good because that means I've never really missed a Christmas in the States, which is nice. Mm-hmm. I've missed it because of work, ironically, but I've always been in the country for it, which was nice. Then we went back to North Carolina at Fort Bragg and continued our training. I was a specialist in the army. In the army, I was a 19 kilo, which is an M1 Abrams crew member. It's a tank for those who don't know what an M1 Abrams is. Big stuff, 70-ton, blow stuff up. Manly man. Which ironically, when I joined, I had a pretty high ASVAB. It was, for those who know ASVABs, I got a score of 89. And when I said I wanted to be a tanker, the guy looked at me and goes, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You realize you can pretty much get any job."
Oh, jeez.
But you want to be a tanker? I'm like, "Yeah, it's right next to the college I'm going to, so that's I can walk to the armory." And so he's like, "All right."
And I want to blow things up.
Yeah, and well, I mean, hey, who doesn't want to blow things up? That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So
I will agree with that.
And I joined after 9/11. I was 17 in 2003 when I joined up. And my initial, I wanted the college money. I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to college if I didn't have a source of funds for it. And also, my family's from New York, so it was very personal to me. But mostly, I mean, that college, anyone who said they didn't do it for the college money and wants to make an excuse for it, I'm not going to make an excuse. I knew I needed the college. And I wouldn't have met you had I not gone to college.
True.
So I can thank a lot of that to the Army. So anyway, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, we then had a family day. We had a 4-day pass right before leaving Fort Bragg to go to Afghanistan. We got married on that 4-day pass. So lots of good stuff happened on that 4-day pass. It was my birthday on the first day of it. And then we got married 3 days later.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole first year of our marriage, I was not home.
Nope. It was a glorious year.
It was a good year. For you, not for me. I got an all-expenses paid vacation to the desert.
I was too busy to even notice.
Yeah.
I was in ultrasound school, and
Yep.
it was basically 7 days a week.
Yep.
It was a condensed class.
So back into so this is 2008 at this point when we left in February. It was toward the middle of February to go over to Afghanistan. We landed in Bagram. I take that back. We landed in Manas, Kyrgyzstan, which that base no longer exists. To my knowledge, we're no longer using that as a transient point. And then from there we went to Bagram Airfield, which anyone who has seen the original Iron Man movie, when they're in Bagram, that is exactly where we were. It is a very gorgeous place to look around from the base. Like, the mountains are beautiful. And then from there, pretty much everyone that goes into Afghanistan has to go through Bagram. And then from Bagram, we went to Kandahar, because where we were going to be, which was Kalat, which was in Zabul province, it was north of Kandahar by about an hour and change. So now this was my first time ever leaving the country for anything military related. First time that I was going to be in a war zone. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was 21. I just turned 22. And the pucker factor was pretty high. I mean, look, I just spent 2.5 months learning about all the ways people are going to try to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm finally put in that position to, oh yeah, so everything we told you, and now it's time. Now it's time to go out into the world that they want to kill you. And I mean, you're young, and I mean, we had people. Hilliard was he was 19. He had turned 19, and that's young.
Yeah, that's really young.
It's really young, and when you think about the way your brain has developed at that point in your life, I don't think it's fully prepared to handle some of the stuff that can happen.
Well, you can enlist at what, 17?
I have 17, yeah. Yeah, at 17 you have to have a parent's consent. At 18 you can just do it. You're an adult. So I was a gunner on a Humvee, a 50 cal gunner. So I mean, that's essentially the job that most people want. They want the big gun.
That's a really...
Nobody I mean, from the standpoint of us at least, nobody wants to be helpless stuck in a vehicle. If you're going to get shot at, you want the ability to shoot back.
I agree. I think that's a pretty awesome position.
Nobody likes to just sit there. The drivers had a pretty good job. At least they were always doing something. And but to be a passenger, and your truck commander's job was to coordinate the radio and maps and navigation and stuff like that, and the crew. But as a gunner, you had the ultimate responsibility. If someone shoots at you, you shoot back. So just I'll touch on I don't want to go into every single day that we were there, but the very first day. So what we did is we were obviously replacing people on a FOB, a forward operating base. So we were replacing people. It was their turn to go home, our time to come in. So how we did that is all of our unit was in Kandahar. They would send like 2 to 3 I think 3 or 4 trucks to Kandahar with like 3 people in it. And then we would do what was called a hot seat. So we would mix in some of our guys with their guys, and they would drop some people off. They would pick some people up. But it wasn't like we were going in green. We had some of the old guys that we were replacing with us on this first trip. And then we would do that several times until everyone had been moved. And then some of them stuck around for the change of command ceremony. But I was on one of the first trips. So not only was this my first time, but it was also one of the first trips. And it was like, okay, there's your truck, hop up, get it done. And it's crazy to think of, looking back now, like what your mind retains, what your mind remembers, and you know. So we had always been told, you know, you stay a certain height above the turret, you know, don't expose your body, obviously, in case you get shot at. You don't want to get hit, so stay behind the armor. Oh God, my first, as soon as we left the gate, the secured gate, and hit a public road, you probably couldn't see the like. I was like, all you could see were probably my eyes just over top. I was nervous. I was very, very nervous. I don't think there's anyone who has never been nervous their very first time. I mean, it goes away. It does go away. But I think the part that messed with me the most was the fact that part of our training was how to identify an IED, or an improvised explosive device, roadside bombs, how to identify them from a distance. And one of the problems with the Afghan and Iraq war is that everything's constantly changing. You know, how the bad guys want to kill you one day may not be the same a day or two after that, because once you learn how they're going to do it, they're going to adapt and figure out a different way. You know, it's no different than anyone else, you know. Even though the bad guys are horrible people, they're still people, and they'll figure out a way to do what they want to do. So we had been told in training about a month prior that if you see a pile of rocks, that's an IED. 5 minutes out the gate, I see piles of rocks. I'm like, and they're on the side of the road. On the side of the road, yeah. And I'm like, I'm yelling down, I'm like, pile of rocks. Like, and we had one of the guys who were trading out. He's like, nah, man, that's not an IED. But he waited till like halfway. We stopped for a random pee break in the middle of nowhere. We stopped, just get out, pee on the side of the road, get back for those who needed it. And he finally looked at me at that point. He's like, hey, man, there's piles of rocks everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
He's like, that's how they mark anything. Any random thing, that's how they mark it. So just, unless you see wires or something very unusual, ignore the piles of rocks. I'm like, that would have been a nice PowerPoint slide to add, you know, because that's how they do most of the training in PowerPoint, you know. So that was the first, you know, nothing eventful on the way there. Got there safely, you know, sweating bullets, triple digits for temperature, no humidity, nice and dry, which was nice. And for those who don't think humidity makes a difference, it makes a difference. Oh yeah, it does. So anyway, we did the change of command ceremony, got comfortable, got in our sleeping arrangements, and we slept in what was called a hooch. So it was a plywood structure, supposed to sleep about 4 to 5 people. The people prior to us had built rooms inside of these, so it was no longer an open bay. So there was some privacy. Each person had a room and a common space. And then we went on to make it our own. So it was nice. We did have air conditioning units. One unit cooled 2 hooches, and my hooch was a little. We were special. We acquired some PVC pipe, and I came home on leave and brought home a Stanley blower. It was a Hoover. I forget what it was. It was a blower fan. It was a massive fan. Or it was a small fan that blew a massive amount of air, and we created our own central air system. It was really nice. It was really cool. But so that was neat. We didn't have internet in our hooches at first. We did toward the end. We all pitched in and bought a satellite and had internet toward the end. But we would have, anytime we had to, like in the beginning, I would have to go down to the day room, the common area, to hop on the Wi-Fi there. And then I could talk to you on Skype at what? Like I had to be at 2:00 in the morning or something like that, 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think that was like 6 a.m. for me.
No, it was in the evening for you.
Oh, it was in the evening
yeah,
for
it was
me.
like 7 or 8.
Yeah, right before bedtime.
I forget what it was, but yeah, it was a weird conversion because Afghanistan's a half time zone, so it's like I forget, it's 5.5 hours or 8.5 or something like that. It's a weird. But it was a half. But anyway, so we used Skype was how we communicated randomly, but I still wrote letters almost every single day. I would write a letter. That was one thing I made damn sure to do.
I don't know where all those letters are now.
We found some of them.
Yeah.
I kept all of yours. I know where all of yours are.
I have to find them.
You didn't write me as many. You're a horrible person.
I sent you a lot of care packages.
You did. You sent a lot of care packages, which I was very
Food.
Beer.
Food.
All I wanted was Pop-Tarts. What else? Slim Jims. Yoo-hoo. And cigars. That's all I wanted.
I gave you a lot of junk food.
Yeah, you did. Looking back on it now, yeah. But if you think about it, all this stuff, like I was burning that off, like in a matter of an hour. All that, anything I consumed was gone.
Yeah,
you know,
you can't exactly ship fruit and vegetables anyway.
No. But I will say our fob had a pretty good chow hall. We ate very well. I did like the food we had. There was surf and turf. I think it was Thursdays or whatever. I mean, I don't eat seafood, but I don't know where they got this crab, but it's good crab apparently. But the steaks were good. Anyway, so we were part of a provincial reconstruction team, PRT, and that essentially was to meet with locals and help. We were the beginning of the Hearts and Minds tour of the war, where we were no longer part of the shock and awe, go in and kick ass and take names. It was now part of let's rebuild, let's win their hearts and minds, let's show them that we're not the bad guys here, that we are here to help them rebuild their infrastructure so they don't have to live a life of farming opium for the drug trade, and you don't have to go fight with the Taliban. You can work with us. So that was part of. We were the security force for the PRT, so we would go with people from the Department of Agriculture, the USAID, and a lot of other people that were involved. So any high-ranking official, we were essentially an armored taxi service, is what we were, and we went all over the place. Lots of little runs. If I remember correctly, it was like over. I kept track. It was like over 280 missions. Some of them were short, some of them were long. We also we were response team for any time EOD, the explosive ordnance destruction team, went out. We were their security with that too. So that was cool. We did some missions with the Romanians on our FOB as well. So there was a lot of cool stuff. I got to be in the governor's palace, governor's compound a few times. I got to sit down and have a nice meal of lamb and pita bread and rice and American Pepsi instead of what we called Haji Pepsi or Haji Coke. It was nice to have an American soda. But yeah, so there was a lot of cool stuff. A lot of shitty stuff. It is what it is. The Taliban kept trying to blow up the roads to the north and south of Kalat where we were at because they wanted to limit our movement. So we were constantly pulling security to help clear and repair those roads that they had trying to blown up. And I mean, we're talking they were shoving IEDs underneath in drainage pipes, and these massive 2 feet of road, 2 feet chunks of concrete were just blown apart. And I can post pictures up this week. Thankfully, no one in my company suffered any physical wounds. We had a guy drop a weight from the weight room on his hand and broke his hand. That's about the extent of any of the wounds. That's about it. I think he broke his hand. That's about it. But other than that, and I got my finger stuck in a door and ripped open, an armored door and ripped open when my truck commander wanted to open it. And he didn't know my finger was in it. Ripped. Oh God, that hurt. It hurt real bad. But other than that, there was no combat inflicted wounds. We never had to deal with an IED blast. But we were fortunate. However, the people before us they had gone one place and had gotten shot at and blown up, and they had lost a guy. And because of that, instead of pushing forward and pushing back and actually handling it like they should have, they then retreated back to the fob, and they never went anywhere in the town ever again, essentially deteriorating the relationship between the town people and the U.S. military. So when we went in there, we had to rebuild all those relationships, and it sucked because they just went to the bad guys had essentially won. They blew him up, they shot at him, they killed a guy, and then they never had to see him again. So they had a small victory. And then we came in and we're like, well, no, we're not those guys anymore, and we don't play by their rules. We're not, for lack of a better term, we're not pussies. We're gonna do what we're here to do. So there was a lot of pushback from locals and whatnot. And it is what it is. So fast forward. I will never lie about my service over there. I was only involved in one TIC, is what it's called, a troop in contact. It was a little bit after halfway. I'd already gone home from leave and come back. And I was in an MRAP that day, which is, we had Humvees, but early on in the 08, they started putting in these larger armored vehicles that were bigger than Humvees. They had a V bottom. They were supposed to do better with IED blasts, and they were called MRAP. And you could fit a lot more people inside of them, but they were simply massive. They were so new. There were no mechanics for them. You had to learn on your own, which was weird. Or they had to ship somebody there from the States to come fix it. It was the stupidest thing. Anyway. We were coming back from a run to Kandahar. We had to go to Kandahar for a lot of things. The main airfield was there, so we had to go pick up people who were coming in and out. Our mail went there, so we had to go pick up our mail in a truck and trailer to go get our mail. Any sort of major supply run we had to go there for. So we went there quite a few times, and we were on our way back. I remember. I'll never forget that day. We were smoking and joking. We all had headsets so we could communicate with inside the trucks, which was nice. They were Bose headsets, so they were noise canceling, which made for communication between the gunner and the driver and the truck commander a lot easier. And Earl Weimer was my driver that day. Randomly, he was not normally our driver, but he was that day. Ryan was the truck commander as usual. Eli Sonderland was in the back. He didn't have a headset on for some reason. I don't remember why. And then I was the gunner, as per usual. And one thing that happens with anything, if nothing happens repeatedly, you kind of become a little complacent. So I was just chilling. And the next thing I know, I heard around very distinctly the noise. And I'll tell you what, some movies do get it right with the noises. But that's a noise I'll never forget. The sound of a bullet just coming right past my head. Just I don't know why I looked the direction that I did. I think it's because there was we were the middle truck, and usually the MO of the bad guys was to break up the convoy. You want to set, because there's power in numbers. So if you break it up, a convoy of like 6 trucks into two convoys of 3 or less, then you're better equipped to do more damage. So that's what they tried to do. We were the middle truck. They attacked on us first, and to the left of us there was a pretty big, I don't say mountain, but there was a big hill. So I didn't think there was anything coming from that side. So I naturally looked to my right, which was the orientation of my gun in the first place. And that's when I started seeing the flash, the muzzle flash of the guns, and I yelled contact right. And I going back to what I said earlier about how you don't realize what the human brain remembers and all that training we did. And you're in Fort Bragg thinking, this is stupid. Why am I doing this over and over and over again? I know, man. That's because it's becoming embedded into your head to become a reaction. So I yelled contact right over the radio, so everyone knew now. And I, without thinking or hesitating, swung the turret over to the right, aimed, and let it rip. And God, the beautiful sound of a 50-foot cal going off is just... Anyone who's ever heard it or experienced it knows it is a beautiful sound. Just pop, 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 pop. And I did not stop until I did. And all I could hear was the side of it. I watched an RPG go in front of our truck within feet. I watched and miss. I watched an RPG come to the back of our truck and miss within feet. And everyone in the trucks watched the same thing happen, except for the driver. His job was to obviously keep going. Then
you guys don't stop. You
want to get out of what's called the kill box as quick as possible. Okay. Well, once you stop, you're a target.
Oh, yeah.
When you're moving, it's a lot harder to hit.
Oh.
Well, then that hill that I said I didn't think that we would get attacked from because it was a hill. Well, they were on that hill and they started shooting mortars at us, but they were missing. They were going over the road. So all I'm hearing is what sounded like rocks just peppering off the side of the truck. We were getting sprayed real bad. They wanted our truck done, and of course it was the biggest one in the convoy. Then these guys had also they had stolen a civilian tractor trailer essentially up ahead of us, and they were going to use it to block the road so that we would have to be a sitting target. Thank God for the first truck. First truck was had a bunch of Iraq vets, guys who had already been to Iraq. That was in my company. Andrew Dixon was the gunner, and he had already pulled out the AT-4, the bazooka, for lack of a better term. He had already pulled that out, and he was already saying, "You get out, or you're done." And he was ready. He was already ready to blow that truck up. And thankfully, that bad guy, he decided to. Better judgment prevailed in his head. Well, I'm not ready to die quite yet. So he got his truck off the road and allowed us to go through. And the shooting stopped, and we regained. But now to talk about the roller coaster of events that happened, something like that. Like I said, we were smoking and joking. We were happy. We were telling jokes, as we did often to pass the time. I mean, there's no, we did have music that played. We rigged it up that we could have music playing over our truck, not over the radio, but over our truck headsets, which was nice. And we listened to a lot of Metallica and Disturbed. That was the soundtrack. Death Magnetic had come out, so that was our soundtrack of that deployment. And we were smoking and joking, having a good time, and then we went from happy to a little bit scared. Because that's the first thing. Something bad's happening. It's kind of oh crap, what's happening now? And there's a little bit of uneasiness, scared. I don't think it's fear, but it's definitely a little bit scared. And then it goes right into anger. Well, why the hell are you trying to kill me? No, not today. So then it's anger. So you're going from happy, scared, angry, and then when it's all done, you're a little uneasy and kind of back to scared of, is this going to happen again? Is this done? And you're worried. And then once we were out of the kill box, we knew everyone in the convoy was good. No one was hurt. Nothing was broken. Then it was relief that, okay, everyone's fine. And we started laughing again, like, holy shit, we just did this. And then, I mean, this whole thing took maybe 2 minutes. This was maybe a minute or 2 minutes of our life. That's it. And this is going to be important, that something that short is going to have such an impact on the rest of my life. No more than 2 minutes of a day affected the rest of my life. So, and then so we started laughing again, and then going right back to instantly mad. Like, why the hell did you, like mad, just becoming mad that the whole thing happened. So, and then, but those emotions for the rest of the night. I didn't sleep very well that night because those emotions were going back. Like, it was just a constant cycle of going through my head. Like, it didn't stop. The next day was okay. I think I smoked about a half a pack of cigarettes that night. I smoked quite.
Jeez.
Just to kind of help relax. I had a cigar. Like, I was trying to calm myself. And that's common for anyone in the military. You know, it's common to guys smoke. That's what I picked up, smoking in the military, and I dropped it as soon as I got out. You know, I said things kind of got a little complacent, as they would, because nothing bad was happening, and then all of a sudden something bad happened. So now it kind of puts us back on our guard. Now, I will say that we were under the command of Air Force leadership. And specifically, our lieutenant colonel that was in charge of us, I'm going to say no backbone. If I ever met him again, I have threatened that if I ever met him again, I'd start a fight with him. In reality, I'd probably have a really serious heart-to-heart with him because I wanted to know what was going through his head. Something else would happen in another section of the country. Some other, like, let's say the Marines would get shot at and like 5 hours away from us. But because it happened at 7 o'clock at night, we were no longer allowed to go out at 7 o'clock at night. I don't know what was going through his head.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes no sense at all.
So because this happened to us right around sundown, we were never allowed to go out at sundown again.
That's like your next door neighbor getting in a car accident at 5 a.m. Oh, I can never. Nobody in the world's allowed to go out and drive at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, that's exactly what it was, and it frustrated a lot of us because a lot of us were now very, again, still angry that this happened. We want to, there's a little bit of vengeance that wants to happen there and revenge, but we continued about our mission. We gave our reports. Oddly enough, not one mark on my truck.
I remember you telling me that.
We were telling our platoon sergeant about it, and he essentially called me a liar. He's like, "This didn't happen." I'm like, "Yeah, it did."
Are you sure it wasn't like it was hitting the ground? Does the bullet like explode like how a shotgun is?
No, a bullet is a flying piece of lead, and it is very possible that some of what was happening was they were missing and hitting the ground, and yes,
rocks were
ricocheting off. Yes, but it sounded way too light. I mean, we're talking about an armored truck that's thick.
Yeah.
Throwing a rock against the side of a truck is not exactly as audible, especially in the middle of gunfire, because I'm hearing it during the 50 cal fire.
Oh.
So, but there was not one mark on the truck, not one, and Eli, who was sitting in the back, he wasn't doing anything but sitting and letting it all happen.
Oh, I would hate that position.
Yeah. So he was just sitting there, and he said it was the loudest thing he had ever heard. So for him to say that, and like I said, Ryan was there too. There are 3 guys in the truck with me that are not shooting. They're just witnessing it. And they all said the same thing. So it's one of those things where I wish I had GoPros on that day. I so wish. Because it would have been some of the best footage of my life.
Just thinking about the experience of how it's so much different from your point of view compared to somebody in the truck.
Yeah. I mean, like, because as I said, Eli didn't see a thing. He had to hear it all. But he had to sit there and hope that he didn't die. And hope that we were doing the right things. Earl was he was just driving. His job was to just drive and not fuck that up. And
I think I would like that job. Just drive.
And Ryan was as a truck commander, he was trying to coordinate with me to make sure I'm good, other trucks to make sure they're good, and then also reporting up to the convoy commander, whoever that was. That might have been him. I don't remember who that was. But as a commander of the truck and the convoy, you're coordinating with everybody else to make sure everyone's good. So really, the only person who was cognitive of the outside goings on was me.
Yeah.
All the gunners.
Yeah.
Now both Ryan and Earl watched the RPG go in front of our truck. No one saw the one going behind our truck except the truck behind us, which I think was Darren's truck, if I remember correctly. Or, no, it was Moore. It was Matt. Matt's truck was behind us. Their truck saw the RPG go behind us because it was in front of them.
So did it blow up the road at all? Or?
No, it hit the hill behind us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
if it did hit the road, would it blow up the road?
It would have made a nice divot.
What would it have done to the truck if it hit the truck?
It depends. If it would have hit the glass is pretty thick. Glass is around like 4 inches thick. It probably would have splintered the glass pretty good. See, here's the thing about anything that's ballistic. Like ballistic plate, bulletproof plates, glass, vests, anything like that, armor itself. They are bulletproof to a certain point. They're explosive proof to a certain point. They are very good for ricochet rounds. For the chances of something hitting you 100% 90-degree perpendicular are so rare. That is what does the most damage.
Okay.
I mean, think about it like when you have a hammer and you're hitting something. If you hit it from an angle, it's not going to do as much as if you hit it square on. So if an RPG would have hit one of the glass square on, it would have done. It may have gone through. It depends. It depends on so many things. I mean, that's one of those things. It's like, what if? What if I'd been sitting 1 inch higher? What if the truck had been going a quarter mile an hour faster?
Yeah.
I may not be sitting here to tell the same story. It's so crazy. What if I had been? There's so many what ifs. It was crazy, and what kind of sucks to me is like we never got confirmation that we took out those bags. Like we never went back to find out. I know for me the confirmation is the shooting stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Those people just don't stop because we'll get them next time around. They stop because they're no longer able to do it. And I'm not going to toot my own horn, but based off of other range days in the past, I know my ability on the 50 cal, and I'm very confident that I made them incapable of shooting a firearm, especially the fact that I was using a 50 cal. The bullet is as big as your hand.
That's a big bullet.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I've made peace with this. So, roller coaster of emotions. I shortly after, and Crystal and I are looking at each other here, and we've decided instead of 2 parts, we're going to break this into 3 parts. We're going to do the Afghanistan first, the actual incident, and then we're going to talk. This episode 2 will be coming home. Episode 3 will be the good stuff. The ending point, essentially. So we're going to break this in, because this is so I could talk about this for days, essentially. But
you know what you should talk about? The fire.
Oh, the Romanians.
Add a little humor into it.
All right, I'll get to that. I'll wrap this part up and I'll get to that. So I will say some of my issues did start over there. For whatever reason, it wasn't immediately after. It was probably about a month after. I had this dream that was recurring. I would have it every single night. And little did I know this was going to go on for years. And I did talk to somebody about this. Where it was essentially the same thing. It was the 3 of us driving in a Humvee by ourselves, though, which never happened. We always traveled in groups of 3 or more. We were in a truck by ourselves going someplace, and we got attacked. Same exact situation, except I went to my 50 cal ran out of ammo, and I went to reach for another can, which our storage rack was behind the turret. We had welded on crates that went behind the turret, and when I reached back there to get the can, an RPG hit my arm and ripped off my arm. I fell down, applied into the truck, put on a tourniquet, got back up, and kept shooting, and then I would wake up. I had that same dream. Like, there was no mission. It was just us driving in a truck. But I had that same dream about a month after this, every single night for years. And at first, the psychologist on base, he was one of the surgeons, but he was also psychiatrist back home. He had told me, he's like, dude, you probably just need rest. You probably just need to get away. When you get home, this should get better because you'll be removed from it. That's what I was told. Yeah, he was wrong. Maybe he could have been right. I don't know. But he ended up being wrong. It did continue.
Well, it's probably a 50-50. Maybe 50% of you guys, that's what happens.
Maybe.
50% of you guys, it doesn't.
But you know what? And we'll get into this on the second half. Is I really feel... and it's funny because I started writing a book about all this, about my story. And in it, the main theme is that it's always pain. Pain is weakness leaving the body. And nobody ever wants to be viewed as weak. Nobody. And when you say that you have something wrong with you, it is viewed, typically in that world at that time, is viewed as a weakness. If you have nightmares, well, you're weak. You can't handle stress. And I think that's the big part about PTSD that I think hurts a lot of people, is that it's viewed, if you have anger problems, if you have nightmares or something like that, you're weak. So a lot of people don't want to speak up about it. I didn't want to speak up about it at first. I kept a lot from you for a long time. And but yeah, so that was the first inkling to me that something is not right. The emotions things, that's normal. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But other than that, my day-to-day job, I continue to do it. I mean, we got awarded a combat action badge for that. I was awarded a Army Commendation Medal for my actions during that, which is probably the medal that means the most to me. It was, but little did I know it was going to be this important to the rest of my life. So, we'll stop with the war story there, and we'll go into the transition home on the next episode. And but yes, as you reminded me, so I mentioned that we had Romanians on the FOB. Now, Romanians, I never really chatted with them so much. I was never put in a position where I had an opportunity to just have a casual conversation with them. So one day we were out on a mission. And I forget where we were, but we were coming back, and we saw this massive... Okay, hang on, I'll back up. When we would leave the chow hall, I would always watch these Romanians. They'd be walking with tons of fruit and bread in their hands and sticking out of their pockets, like a lot. More than you should be taking back. I'm like... They're
just really hungry.
I'm like, dude, you can get stuff from the PA. Like, you can get stuff. Why? You can have stuff mailed to you. Like, I don't get it. I was never jonesing that much for a late night snack that I had to, like, this is a lot. And it's not just a few people. It was a lot of them that was doing this. Never thought anything of it then. I just kind of let it slide. And a lot of us always said the same thing. So then one day we're coming back from a mission and we see this massive black cloud coming from the ground, and we're like, in the distance, and being a gunner, I'm up further so I can see more. I say, is that up toward the FOB? And everyone's like, yeah, it is. And then we started thinking, something bad must have happened. Maybe they're being, but we haven't heard anything from anybody. So we're like, well, maybe nothing bad happened. It must not be that bad. We would have been notified to come back immediately. And then, but we had the burn pit, right? Which is another thing. We had the burn pit a couple 100 feet from where we slept. And literally, it's a burn pit. It's what you think it is. Everything got burnt there. Everything. Didn't matter what, it went into the burn pit eventually. So we're like, maybe they just... Then we started chatting about it. We're like, it's probably just a hefty day for the burn pit. They must have some good stuff thrown on there.
Oh, goodness.
But I'm telling you, it was pitch black. I hadn't seen a smoke like that in a long time. And we're getting closer. And when we got really close, we were on the road to go back up to it. And I'm like, that's not the burn pit. That's not where the burn pit is. That's not it. Something's wrong. Meanwhile, no one's responding to us on the radio. So now we're thinking that, shit, something is wrong. So we get up there, And as soon as we pull in, it is mass chaos. There's people running around. We're like, oh shit, what is going on? We parked our trucks and we were told the Romanians set their hooches on fire. Now remember, I told you all the living quarters were plywood huts. Apparently, what these bread and fruit lovers were doing, they were making their own liquor. They were making their own hooch.
In their hooch.
They had a distillery, and it caught fire. And as they say, boom, up it went.
Oh, God.
Now they were separated by one road from our hooches. So there was one little dirt road in between us. Like the width of one truck. That's how much separated us from them. And the fire spread so rapidly. I mean, again, no moisture in the air, 100, triple degree temperatures, and a slight breeze, and that spread fast. So now we were given the order: grab as much as you can from your room that you can fill up your own trucks. Take what's important, throw it in the trucks. Act as if you're never going to see this again. Act as if we're going to lose everything, and throw it in your trucks. Move your trucks down to the staging point so they're not near the fire, and come back here and help. So we did that, which is it's shitty to find out, oh, I might lose everything. So I grabbed the important stuff. Now the other thing was, once we did all that, we came back and grabbed tons of bottles of water, and we jumped up because all the ash was now falling from the sky. It was still on fire. And we're like, well, we don't want this to land on top of our tents and light us on fire. So we all jumped, several of us jumped up on top of the roofs. I jumped up on the roof of mine and started dumping water on these bottles of water on top of our roofs to make sure that they were wet and could not be flammable. I think we have pictures of that too. So at this point, we start hearing ammunition cooking off. We just started hearing, it's like popcorn going off. Well, we were smart enough to keep all of our spare ammo in a Connex, like a big tractor trailer container, storage container. We didn't keep all the spare stuff in our hooches with us in case something like this happened.
So it literally was like popcorn.
It was popcorn. Yeah, it was all these bullets lighting on fire and exploding. You could hear the rounds going off. So now we have to be on top, but also get down in case we get hit by a stray bullet. And then there was this fuel truck. There was this truck that had a bunch of empty, full fuel cans sitting on the back of it. And I just see these Romanians running to it. Fuel, it's on fire. We got it.
Oh, God.
So they had to move the trucks so they wouldn't catch on fire. Finally, they hadn't. One of the because we had locals that would come and do work up on our fob. One of them, we had an excavator, a construction digger, like a front end loader. And obviously, that was what we needed to help dig a trench and kill the fire. Because we didn't have a fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
We did have to just let it burn out, but we had to make a barrier that would prevent the fire from spreading. Well, turns out that contractor took his keys home.
Oh, jeez.
Took the keys home to the excavator so nothing could happen. Finally, they found a set of spare keys. I mean, at this late, it was already too late, but luckily no American hooches got touched. All the Romanian ones burnt. All of them. Gone. And I mean, it was good in a way that, we were, luckily the whole fob was spared. It wasn't the whole fob going up in flames. It was only their block of living quarters. But to watch them hours later after everything had finally died down, to watch them getting reamed out in formation on top of the smoldering ashes that was just their living quarters, watching them get yelled at. Mildly amusing, but at the same time, I felt bad. It's one of those, you know what I mean? It's one of those situations where it's their own doing, so you feel bad, but it wasn't all of them, so you do feel bad that, they just lost everything.
Yeah.
So that does suck. But at the same time, you kind of are like, dude, you did this to yourself. It's really hard to explain unless you've ever been in a situation like that. And I think we all have for something where someone who did something bad and then it caused something bad to happen and you feel bad that it happened, but at the same time, you're like, well, you deserve a little bit of that. It's karma.
Mm-hmm.
But my back is on fire right now. And we'll talk about that on the next one. But yeah, so it was a defining moment in my life being over there. I would never trade it again. Knowing what I know now, I would still go back and do it every single time if I had the chance to do it. And shit, I've wanted to go back again. We'll talk about that. I've considered re-enlistment a few times, but so that's into part 1. We were going to do a product of the week, but that's going to wait till the last episode.
Yeah, I would do the last episode.
So, watch our Facebook and web page for a product of the week. I don't have anything on my offhand right now, so but watch there. I will have it posted up. It will come up in a link for it there too. I don't have anything planned as of right now, so that's part 1. So we're gonna end it weird. To be continued. What will happen next? Woo! And again, if you were hoping to tune in to hear some badass story about me throwing grenades by pulling pins from my mouth on the top of a horse, man, you definitely tuned into the wrong podcast. But not all stories are like what they portray in the movies, which a good reminder, that movie came out last night for today, 12 Strong, which is the true story of the 12 Special Forces armed soldiers that deployed to Afghanistan and fought the Taliban on horseback.
Oh.
That came out today, and I do want to see that.
In movie theaters?
Yep, it's in movie theaters. Yep, Rob Riggle is in it. One of the majestic, who are those two brothers who play who's the one that plays Thor? Hemsworth. One of the Hemsworths is in it. So you know there's going to be abs for days and dreamy eyes or something like that. I don't know. But I know Rob Riggle's in it, which I have the utmost respect for him. So I do want to see that, but maybe I'll make a point for that this weekend. But
hey, if the girls go up to...
Yeah, we can do that.
My mom's this weekend. We can go watch that. Yep.
But so not everything is what they put on in the movie theater, but there's a lot of merit to what goes on in the movie theater, and some stories are just as important. So, and we'll get to that in the next one. So that's it for now. Tune in next week for part 2. How do you say it in French? Part 2.
I don't know. I can't.
You took French in high school.
It was what? 13, 14, 15 years ago?
I remember my Spanish just fine. Okay, tune in for part dos next week.
I don't know. I kept on thinking dos, but that's Spanish, isn't it?
That's Spanish, yeah. It's Spanish. I think it's deux. D-E-U-X or something like that.
D-E-U-X. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's D-E-U-X. I just can't remember how to say it.
Well, your pronunciation is garbage of American words,
my goodness, yes.
Like a baja salad.
Yes, please.
All right, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week. I don't have anything. Do you have anything else? Do you have anything?
No.
No? Okay. No. I know you didn't get a chance to talk a lot on this one.
That's all right.
The background, I mean, you weren't there for the background of it, so next one and the one after will definitely have a lot. You'll have a lot more input. So if you're hoping to hear Crystal talk, tune in next week. She'll have more to say. It's crazy. I know I could talk about this topic for literally days, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a talker, but Crystal wasn't there for that. So
nope.
Did I end up telling you we got shot at?
Yes.
While we were there?
Yes.
It wasn't immediately. I think it was a couple weeks after.
Yeah.
Because there's another thing. You don't want to tell, because not everyone has a steel trap like you. Army wives will gossip, and then next thing you know, what started out as, they were shot at, will turn into, half the platoon died.
Half the platoon died.
The rumors, it's the game of telephone, it just spreads, and it has happened. Not with us, but it has happened, so we had to keep it hush-hush for a while to make sure that everything was accounted for, good to go, so... All right, that's it. Tune in next week. Hope you have a good weekend. We will, hopefully.
Yes.
All right. That's all I got. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the 10th Year Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, visit our Facebook page or email us at the10thyearpodcast@gmail.com.